Natalie Portman has built a life far from the Hollywood glare she once knew so well, settling into the quieter rhythms of Paris with a circle of close friends who understand the private woman behind the public persona. Among those friends, the acclaimed British author Rachel Cusk is notably absent, according to multiple sources familiar with both women. Yet the two have become entangled in a literary controversy that has set tongues wagging across publishing houses in New York, Los Angeles, and the French capital. Cusk's slim new novel, Life of M, scheduled for release on August 25, centers on a writer's evolving relationship with a former child star who now lives in Paris and is attempting to write her own autobiography. The character, known simply as M, carries so many specific biographical echoes of Portman that industry insiders and readers alike have immediately drawn the connection. The portrait is not a flattering one. M is depicted as a figure whose fame has left her emotionally remote, whose attempts at ordinary human connection repeatedly fall short, and whose intense artistic commitments border on the obsessive. Portman herself, now 45 and expecting her third child, the first with her partner, French musician Tanguy Destable, is said by those close to her to find the book annoying rather than furious. She is reportedly in one of the happiest periods of her life, focused on her growing family, new professional campaigns, and the creative projects ahead. The idea that the novel represents some personal betrayal or deep friendship gone sour is, sources insist, a marketing fabrication designed to generate sales. The parallels begin early. Portman first became famous at age 12 in the 1994 film Lion, The Professional, a role that later drew criticism for the uncomfortable sexualization of a child character opposite a much older co-star. In Life of M, the character also begins as a child actor and tells the narrator that starring in a film immediately brought her childhood to an end. Portman has spoken openly in recent years about what she called a long Lolita phase, describing how the public perception of her diverged sharply from her private sense of self and how the early sexualization left her feeling scared. Her mother intervened on the set of Lion to protect certain boundaries. A similar protective intervention appears in the novel. The similarities continue with Portman's Oscar-winning performance in Black Swan. For that role she trained for a full year with the New York City Ballet, pushing her body to extremes. In Cusk's book, M stars in a film about ballet and trains with starved and chain-smoking ballerinas, her body beginning to mimic theirs as she becomes obsessive about mastering postures and sequences. Romantic history also aligns. Portman met her former husband, ballet dancer Benjamin Millepied, on the set of Black Swan while he was still involved with another dancer who served as Portman's stand-in. Their eventual marriage produced 2 children, Aleph and Amalia, and ended in divorce in 2024 amid public reports of infidelity. The novel alludes to a romance that begins under comparable professional and personal circumstances, and M reflects on the difficulty of total sincerity in love. Even smaller details resonate. M is described smiling from billboards, wreathed in the pink flowers of spring, language that closely evokes Portman's long-running campaigns as the face of Miss Dior. Both women live in Paris. Both have navigated the particular isolation that can accompany extreme early fame. A source in the French capital who knows both Portman and Cusk put it bluntly, "Of course Rachel is writing about Natalie." Publishing sources describe Cusk's method as one of mining the lives of acquaintances and loved ones, transforming real people into literary material without necessarily seeking permission or offering explicit acknowledgement. Portman and Cusk have met a handful of times. In September 2021 the actress selected Cusk's novel second place, long-listed for the Booker Prize, for her Instagram book club and conducted an interview with the author, calling her one of my favorite writers. She later chose Cusk's Parade as a book club pick in 2024. Those public gestures of admiration have fueled speculation that the two women were once closer, or that Portman might even have granted some form of permission for a roman à clef. Sources close to Portman reject both notions. They say the pair have met perhaps 5 or 6 times in total, that they do not socialize, and that Cusk is not part of Portman's inner circle of girlfriends in Paris. The suggestion of a deep friendship being torn apart is, in their view, a publisher's invention. Literary observers have offered more nuanced readings. One critic who first drew public attention to the resemblances argued that Cusk is not primarily interested in dismantling Portman out of personal animus. Instead, the novelist uses the figure of a famous actress as a stand-in for questions about elite culture, the instability of the self, and the possibility that identity itself is a kind of performance. Actresses, in this view, make ideal subjects for such philosophical play. Whether the portrait captures something true about Portman's public quest for normalcy is almost beside the point. What matters is the artistic game being played with the idea of authenticity. Cusk has a history of drawing controversy from her use of real lives. Her early memoir A Life's Work on becoming a mother was described by one major newspaper as career suicide for its unsparing depiction of motherhood. Another memoir, The Last Supper, was withdrawn and pulped after a tourist recognized himself in a critical passage and threatened legal action. In the case of Life of M, neither the author nor her publishers have made any vigorous effort to deny the resemblance to Portman. Supporters of Cusk argue that novelists have always drawn from life, that the quality of the finished work is what ultimately matters, and that the book will likely become another commercial and critical success. Cusk, who resides in Paris, has received numerous prestigious literary awards throughout her career, including the Whitbread First Novel Award, the Somerset Maugham Award, the Goldsmiths Prize, the Prix Femina Étranger and Italy's Malaparte Prize. She has also faced controversy. Her first memoir, A Life's Work on becoming a mother, was described by the New York Times as career suicide for its depiction of motherhood as a form of disability. Her 2009 memoir The Last Supper, A Summer in Italy was withdrawn and destroyed shortly after publication when a tourist recognized a critical portrayal of himself and threatened legal action over libel and privacy, resulting in an out-of-court settlement and the pulping of the first print run. A French source who knows both women observed that novelists routinely draw from their own experiences to create characters, and Cusk is no exception. She is widely regarded as one of the finest practitioners of the craft. The many similarities between Natalie and M are, in this view, precisely what one should expect. The same source pointed out that Cusk and her publishers have made no real effort to deny that the book concerns Portman. As an artist, Cusk is under no legal or moral obligation to explain the origins of her inspiration. What matters is that she has produced a superb book that is expected to become another bestseller. Beyond the impending arrival of her child, Portman has new campaigns with Dior and Tiffany scheduled for the fall. She is set to appear in The Gallerist and early the following year in Lena Dunham's Good Sex. By the conclusion of Life of M, the actress character tells the narrator that she dislikes the way she has been portrayed, arguing that the depiction makes her seem lacking in humanity and incapable of love. Those close to Portman insist that nothing could be further from the truth. She is comfortable with who she is, her friends know her well, and there is little reason to believe the book is causing her significant distress. The entire episode raises broader questions about the ethics of literary appropriation, the porous boundary between public persona and private self, and the ways in which celebrity lives become raw material for fiction. Portman's early experiences of being sexualized as a child actor, her intense physical and psychological preparation for Black Swan, the public unraveling of her marriage, and her subsequent move toward a quieter life in Paris all form a rich tapestry that a novelist of Cusk's skill could readily transform into narrative. Whether the resulting portrait is fair, insightful, or merely opportunistic remains a matter of debate among those who have read the manuscript or followed the surrounding discussion. What is clear is that the publication of Life of M has placed Portman, however reluctantly, at the center of a conversation about representation, consent, and artistic freedom. Sources close to the actress emphasize her current happiness and stability, suggesting that any annoyance she feels is unlikely to disrupt the positive trajectory of her personal and professional life. Meanwhile, Cusk continues her established practice of mining the lives around her, confident in the artistic results even as the personal implications continue to generate speculation and comment from Hollywood to the literary salons of Paris. The novel's slim page count belies the weight of the questions it provokes about identity, performance, and the cost of living a life that is perpetually observed and interpreted by others. In the end, the character M's complaint about being portrayed as inhuman and incapable of love stands in pointed contrast to the accounts of those who know Portman best. They describe a woman who has navigated the extreme pressures of early fame, the physical demands of transformative roles, the public scrutiny of a high-profile marriage and divorce, and the quieter challenges of building a family and career on her own terms. Whether Cusk's literary experiment succeeds in illuminating larger truths about the self or simply trades on the recognizable contours of a famous life will be for readers to decide once the book reaches a wider audience. For now, the scandal, such as it is, remains a conversation among insiders, fueled by the undeniable overlaps between fiction and the public record of one of Hollywood's most accomplished and carefully private stars. The intersection of celebrity and literature has long produced such controversies, from thinly veiled portraits in classic novels to contemporary Roman à clef works that test the limits of privacy and invention. In this case, the combination of Portman's distinctive career milestones and Cusk's reputation for drawing unflinchingly from real life has created a particularly charged atmosphere. Portman's own history of reflecting thoughtfully on the distortions of fame adds another layer. She has repeatedly articulated the gap between public perception and private reality, making the appearance of a fictionalized version of that tension all the more pointed. Whether the book ultimately deepens understanding of those tensions or merely exploits them will depend on the quality of the prose and the fairness of the characterization. Until then, the discussion continues, with Portman reportedly more focused on her expanding family and upcoming projects than on the literary portrait that has so many talking.